Welcome to Nugget 341 with Steve and Dana Groman. We are continuing our space series. In this nugget, we're going to show you some pictures from, of course, the Alamogordo Museum of Space History, but also from the Johnson Space Center in Houston, COSI in Columbus, Ohio, and Cape Canaveral in Florida during our visits to these rather extraordinary places.
They are that. Extremely extraordinary for many reasons.
In Nuggets 337 and 338, we started out this series talking about Robert Goddard and Werner von Braun. We talked about the V-2 rocket in Nugget 339, and we talked about these German Nazi scientists that came to America to help and start the space program in Nugget 340. In this Nugget 341, we're going to show some of the silliness. You take it for what it's worth. You just got to read between the lines on this one. When we went to the planetarium presentation there in Alamogordo, we found these posters, and they were advertising the different planets and different places as if you could go there, and they were like national parks. It was crazy. You know, visiting Uranus and Jupiter and Europa and Pluto, but it was being presented as if you could just take a tour there. So it's all fanciful. People like this kind of stuff.
But it has been that all along.
And it's science fiction in the highest degree, and yet it's being presented at what it should be a factual scientific locale. Like this one, Sail Under the Ice of Neptune on Yellow Star Line. It's all kind of silly and fanciful. It's intriguing, mixing science with science fiction. The Grand Tour. And we know that the Grand Tour, back when the Union Pacific Railroad went to some of the fabulous national parks out west, but they're doing it as if you're taking a grand tour to these different planets. Got a poster on Titan and Loki Patera. It's a planetary park, part of the Planetary Park Service. See, they're doing a knockoff of the National Park Service. You can visit 10 volcanoes. No, you can't.
Not really.
Milky Way lines, the Midnight Zephyr to Earth, Saturn, and Pluto.
Arizona State University's Tomorrow Project.
Exactly. Well, many years ago, actually it was January 19th of 2006.
That's when we watched the plutonium-powered rocket go to Pluto.
Well, supposedly.
So they said.
So they said. We were recently in COSI in Columbus, Ohio, and they had these same kind of posters. You can visit Ceres, the queen of the asteroid belt, and they show people visiting these places. HD 40307G, a super Earth, experience the gravity. All these silly posters, greetings from your first exoplanet. It's just science fiction.
Right, and like I talk about in the meetings, they don't know if Pluto is a planet, and it is in our solar system.
They also had these ones of Kepler 186f, where the grass is always redder on the other side. Relax on Kepler-16b. You want to remind us who Kepler is, who they're referring to here?
Well, Kepler was back in the late 1500s, and he was an astronomer, mathematician, astrologer, and a philosopher. In fact, Galileo wrote about him. He actually became Tycho Brahe's assistant. And of course, the moon, we're kind of familiar with the Tycho crater on the moon.
Yes, I'm sure everyone's familiar with that. And
it's
I
the
bet
main one.
You could find a poster to take you on a tour of it.
You can go tour it. Yeah, probably.
In your imagination.
Yeah.
And we also know that he is a key figure in the 17th century scientific revolution, best known for his laws of planetary motion.
He lived from 1571 to 1630.
Speaking of the redder on the other side, we know that they always talk about Mars as being the red planet. Back at the museum in Alamogordo, they had this poster, "Are we looking for life on Mars?" And with their supposed Mars rover, they've decided that I guess there isn't life there or water. They haven't, that little go-kart hasn't run into anything yet, right?
No.
And they had this where you could experience the Curiosity rover in 3D. Yeah, I'm sure it looks just like that.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
They show this design, and the sign next to it said, "This is a stunt double. This engineering model of Curiosity was used in tests on Earth. Some aspects, like the power supply, differ from the flight vehicle." It's hard for me to believe that this went from Earth to Mars and that they are controlling it from here. And this thing has this arm that he reaches out and takes selfies of himself on Mars. Because I always wondered,
kind of crazy,
who is taking these pictures? And I read it says that he's taking selfies with an extension arm. At the command center there at COSI, you can remote operate a Mars rover yourself.
Hey, that would be awesome, huh?
And they have the same thing at the NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston. Mars or Bust. It's a Mars rover, and you can operate it yourself. They had this display up, current weather on Mars, and they claim that the data is from Curiosity rover at the Gale crater. It's sunny. There was no wind. The temperature was minus 6 degrees Fahrenheit, and the low temperature was going to be a negative 107 degrees Fahrenheit. That's quite a swing from day to night.
Chilly.
And the atmospheric pressure is high at 0.122 psi. And they can't even tell you what the weather's going to be like here tomorrow. It was supposed to rain here all day today, and we haven't seen a drop.
3 times today so far.
But we know exactly what's going on Mars. I know you like this sign.
I do like that sign. It was hanging in NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston, and it says, "Imagination will often carry us to worlds that never were." And I like this, but without it, we go nowhere. Without our imagination, we're not going.
And that's what we're trying to
That's
point
what it
out.
says. I didn't say it. Carl Sagan said it.
Carl Sagan, astrophysicist. That's what these posters are all about. It's all imagination.
Yeah.
Like the Tomorrow Project that you mentioned, and that's what they're trying to get
Working
young people
towards the kind
involved
of
in.
futures we want to work toward together.
But that's what they did with us, too, with the Jetsons and Planet of the Apes.
Especially early on, NASA people were fascinated with science fiction.
One other thing that we had a lot of fun with, we found this one at NASA in Houston, was this a visual effects studio, Mars landing. And they had this whole green screen setup that you could stand in front of. What are they insinuating here? What are we insinuating here?
I don't know.
They also have this backdrop, and Paul and I decided to try our hand at being Mars astronauts, speaking of fantasy. And then just recently in COSI, they had a green screen also in that section, and you were able to place me in this silly dinosaur picture and in mountains with the bees.
Put you on Mars.
You could have put me on
I
Mars.
could have put you on Mars.
I preferred the palm trees. The point is, with the green screen, you could show
You can do anything.
anything.
Should we run the video of our motorhome?
We can.
We could do that.
Here's a funny video that Steve put together just to prove some green screen effects. This sign was at the museum in Alamogordo. As good as they are, inertial navigation systems are not perfect. And they have this sign, and I love these kinds of signs.
You do.
I really do. Mainly when they have cities on it and mileages, but this one...
This one's good because it's lost, confused, unclear, perplexed, unsure, disoriented, bewildered. That about sums it up.
I think it does. When we were at the museum in Alamogordo, they had this whole section on, of course, Star Trek. And that is another thing that a lot of us grew up on, Star Trek, the TV series, and then the movie series continued on to bring in more people into the fold. And
you actually beamed me up there.
I did beam you up.
Yeah.
We showed you being beamed up a couple of nuggets ago. They had all this memorabilia and silly stuff from Star Trek and books. It's quite
They had a lot
the deal.
of stuff.
But this one was kind of cute. It had all these little USS Enterprises. And it said, Gene Roddenberry envisioned a universe full of diverse peoples and their varied means of traveling among the stars. Unfortunately, in the 1960s, neither the budget nor the technology existed to create all of these different starships, sets, and props for the original series. With the popularity of the Star Trek franchise and the advent of computer-generated imagery, CGI, boy, that's key, isn't it? CGI, that's a big thing. Roddenberry's vision has been expanded. Since his death, the original television series has been remastered and updated, and the concept has continued to grow. If you search the web, you can find at least 96 different varieties of starships from the worlds of the Star Trek universe. Here are a few representatives. Did you hear that? They took what we once saw and they've remastered it and they changed it. Things can be changed. Perspectives, history can be changed. We need to pay attention. The human race is a remarkable creature, one with great potential, and I hope that Star Trek has helped to show us what we can be if we believe in ourselves and our abilities. Gene Roddenberry. What does he have to do
I'd
with
like
that?
to wish on a star.
Can you buy me a star?
I guess so.
In the next nugget, we're going to be talking about Ham, the space chimp. If you appreciate our content, tell others and repost on your social platforms. And don't forget to tell others about our YouTube channel. Thank you.